I am Sarah Mitchell, and I am 34 years old. 3 months ago, I stood up at my brother's wedding reception and announced that I was canceling a $25 million software contract with his new in-laws company. The silence that followed my words changed everything, but the self-respect I gained was worth every uncomfortable moment that came after. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, despite building something incredible with your life, or if you have been treated like the helper instead of the achiever, then you know exactly what I am talking about. Hit that like button if this resonates with you, and if you are new here, subscribe for more stories about recognizing your worth when it matters most. But before I tell you about that explosive wedding reception that shattered decades of family dysfunction, let me take you back to where this pattern of invalidation first began. Growing up in Westfield, Connecticut, my younger brother Jake and I should have been equals in our parents' eyes. Our colonial-style home on Maple Street was filled with the sounds of my mother's classical piano music and the smell of my father's weekend grilling experiments. Sunday mornings meant pancakes in the kitchen while Dad read us comics from the newspaper, and summer evenings were spent catching fireflies in mason jars in our backyard. Those early years painted a picture of balanced family life, but even then, subtle patterns were forming that would shape our relationship for decades. When Jake, 18 months younger, brought home a crayon drawing of our family from preschool, it was immediately hung on the refrigerator with great ceremony. When I presented my elaborate Lego computer designs at age 6, complete with keyboards and monitors I had constructed from blocks, my mother would smile briefly before suggesting I help her with dinner preparation instead. "Sarah's always been our little helper," became her standard explanation when neighbors complimented my creations. Jake's more of the natural leader type. The message was clear. Creativity without traditional achievement markers was cute but unimportant, while Jake's conventional interests were automatically more valuable and worthy of attention. Elementary school amplified these dynamics in ways I wouldn't fully understand until decades later. Jake coasted through his classes with average grades, but his participation in Little League Baseball was treated like preparation for professional sports. Every game was attended, every practice discussed at dinner, every small improvement celebrated as evidence of his natural athletic ability and competitive spirit. Meanwhile, I was teaching myself to code on our family computer, writing simple programs that created patterns and games. When I showed my parents a program I had written that could solve basic math problems, my father nodded approvingly before turning to Jake to ask about his batting average. When I won the regional science fair with a project demonstrating how computer algorithms could optimize traffic patterns, the celebration lasted exactly as long as it took for Jake to mention his team making it to the championship finals. "Sarah's got quite the imagination," my mother would tell her friends when they asked about the science fair win. "She comes up with these creative projects. Jake, though, he has got real leadership potential. Coach says he has never seen such natural instincts in someone so young." High school made the favoritism even more pronounced. Jake joined the student government and played varsity soccer, following what seemed to be a predetermined path toward traditional success. I gravitated toward the computer programming club and started my first small business at 15, designing websites for local businesses and earning more money than most adults in our town. Our parents attended every one of Jake's soccer games, cheering loudly from the sidelines and hosting post-game celebrations for his teammates. When I landed my first major client, a regional restaurant chain that paid me $3,000 to redesign their entire web presence, the family dinner conversation that night focused on Jake's upcoming college recruitment visits. "Business and athletics build character," my father would say while reviewing Jake's game statistics. "All that computer stuff is interesting, Sarah, but you need to think about your future. Technology changes so fast, but people skills last forever." I didn't grow out of my computer stuff. Instead, I earned a full scholarship to MIT while Jake attended State University on a partial athletic scholarship that my parents treated like a full ride to Harvard. During family holiday gatherings, conversations revolved around Jake's fraternity leadership positions and intramural sports achievements. My academic accomplishments were acknowledged with polite nods before someone inevitably changed the subject to something everyone could relate to. MIT is very impressive, extended family members would say, but Jake's really learning how the real world works through his campus activities. Sarah's always been more of the bookworm type. After graduation, I worked 18 whole days at a tech startup in Boston, learning everything I could about software development, project management, and business operations. Meanwhile, Jake joined Mitchell and Associates, the marketing firm my father had built from a small advertising agency into a regional powerhouse. Jake was immediately given a junior executive position, despite having a communications degree that he would barely earned with C+ grades. It is about people skills and practical experience, not just technical knowledge, my mother explained when I questioned the fairness during one of our weekly family dinners. Jake understands how to connect with clients. He has your father's natural business instincts. At 26, I took the biggest risk of my life. I cashed in my savings, secured a small business loan, and founded TechFlow Solutions, specializing in enterprise software that streamlined business operations for mid-sized companies. The first 2 years were brutal. I converted my studio apartment into an office space, sleeping on a futon in the corner while my desk dominated the living area. Instant ramen became both breakfast and dinner as I poured every penny into developing our core software platform. When I called home during that period, conversations were brief and discouraging. "I worry about you, honey," my mother would say. "There is always a position at your father's firm if this technology thing doesn't work out. Jake's doing so well there, really making his mark." They never offered to invest, never asked about my business plan, never seemed to believe I could succeed in an industry they didn't understand. The implicit message was that real business success looked like traditional marketing and sales, not software development and technology innovation. Then came the breakthrough that would change everything. TechFlow developed a revolutionary project management software that integrated client communications, timeline tracking, and resource allocation in ways that existing platforms couldn't match. Suddenly, I was hiring employees, moving into a real office space, and fielding calls from investors who had previously ignored my pitch emails. It was during this period of rapid growth that Jake met Christina Bradford at a charity golf tournament organized by the Connecticut Business Leaders Association. Christina was the only daughter of Robert Bradford, owner of Bradford Industries, a national manufacturing company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Their courtship was fast and public, with vacations to European ski resorts and weekend trips to the Hamptons. My parents were absolutely ecstatic about this development. "Robert has taken quite a shine to Jake," my mother gushed during one of our monthly phone calls. "He is introducing him to all the right people in manufacturing and distribution." This relationship could really take Mitchell and Associates to the next level of success. The irony wasn't lost on me. While my own business achievements were treated as interesting experiments that might eventually lead to real work, Jake's romantic relationship was immediately recognized as a strategic business opportunity that could benefit the entire family. 6 months into their relationship, Jake and Christina announced their engagement at a lavish party at the Bradford family estate. The Mitchell and Bradford families merged their social circles seamlessly, with my parents suddenly attending country club events and charity auctions they had previously dismissed as pretentious displays of wealth. Meanwhile, through completely separate business channels, Bradford Industries had been searching for a new software solution to manage their increasingly complex supply chain operations across multiple manufacturing facilities. Their chief technology officer, Margaret Chen, discovered TechFlow through an industry conference where I had presented our integrated platform capabilities. She had absolutely no idea about the family connection when she initially reached out to schedule a demonstration. After 4 months of presentations, security evaluations, and contract negotiations, Bradford Industries signed a $25 million contract with TechFlow Solutions. It was the largest deal in my company's 5-year history, one that would allow us to expand internationally and develop specialized modules for manufacturing industries. I mentioned the contract to my parents during our weekly call, hoping they might finally acknowledge the magnitude of my professional success. "That is wonderful, dear," my mother said distractedly. Did you get the invitation to Jake and Christina's engagement party? It is at the Bradford estate. Robert has his own golf course and a wine cellar that has been featured in Architectural Digest. 2 weeks later, at the engagement party, I met Robert Bradford for the first time. He was imposing and confident, with silver hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to being the most influential person in any room. The Bradford estate sprawled across 40 acres of manicured grounds, with gardens that probably cost more than most people's homes. "So you are the brilliant mind behind TechFlow," he said, shaking my hand with surprising warmth. "Margaret cannot stop talking about your software platform. She says your integration capabilities will save us millions in operational costs within the first year of implementation. Thank you, Mr. Bradford. We are excited about the partnership and the opportunity to work with Bradford Industries. Please, call me Robert, and we absolutely must set up a proper dinner soon. I would love to hear more about where you see enterprise software heading in the next 5 years." Before I could respond, my mother appeared at my side, her eyes wide with surprise and something that looked like confusion. "You two have already met?" she asked, looking back and forth between us. "Just now," I replied carefully. "Robert was kind enough to compliment our software platform." "Your software?" Robert's eyebrows rose as he processed this information. "Wait, Mitchell, you are Jake's sister." He never mentioned that his sister ran TechFlow Solutions. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us while my mother's smile became increasingly strained. She laughed nervously, the sound high and artificial. "Oh, Sarah has always been our little computer genius," she said, as if explaining away a child's amusing hobby. "Jake focuses more on the business development side of things, like his father, people skills, you know." Robert looked genuinely confused by this explanation, but he quickly recovered his composure with practiced social grace. "Well, apparently business genius runs in the family, just in different directions. This is quite a remarkable coincidence." It wasn't a coincidence that my brother had never mentioned my company to his future father-in-law. It was a deliberate omission that revealed how little my professional achievements mattered to my own family. My success didn't fit the narrative Jake had carefully constructed about himself as the family's business prodigy and natural inheritor of entrepreneurial success. Despite this painful revelation, I held on to hope that Jake's wedding might represent a turning point in our family dynamics. Perhaps the undeniable evidence of my success through the Bradford contract would finally earn me the recognition and respect I had worked so hard to achieve over the past decade. I spent weeks preparing for the wedding, selecting a sophisticated navy dress that projected both elegance and authority. I even arranged for David Parker, a respected venture capitalist I had been dating for 4 months, to accompany me to the celebration. David understood the technology industry and could speak knowledgeably about TechFlow's innovations and market position. "Are you sure you want me there?" David asked over dinner the week before the wedding. "From everything you have told me about your family dynamics, it sounds like it might be emotionally challenging for you." "That is exactly why I want you there," I admitted. "Having someone who sees me for who I actually am will help me maintain perspective. Plus, maybe having an outside witness will encourage my family to acknowledge my achievements instead of just dismissing them." The night before the wedding, I called Jake, wanting to connect with him before the chaos of the celebration. "Hey, just wanted to say I am really excited for tomorrow," I said when he answered. "Christina seems wonderful, and I am looking forward to celebrating with you." "Thanks, sis," he replied, sounding distracted by wedding preparations. "It is crazy here. Christina's got 3 wedding planners coordinating everything, and Robert keeps adding people to the guest list. Important business contacts, you know. Is there anything I can help with? I know how stressful wedding planning can be." "Nah, we have got everything covered, professional event coordinators handling all the details." A pause. "Listen, about the seating arrangements. There have been some last-minute changes with all the additional guests Robert wanted to include. That is fine. I understand these things get complicated with large weddings. Right? We have had to make some adjustments to accommodate Bradford Industries board members and some major clients. But don't worry, everything's handled." As I hung up, I felt a subtle uneasiness, but I pushed it aside. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, finally, I would be recognized not just as Jake's sister, but as a successful business owner, whose company was partnering with the Bradford family empire. The Bradford estate on wedding day was even more impressive than it had been during the engagement party. White tents dotted the manicured lawns, connected by paths lined with thousands of white roses and baby's breath. A string quartet played near the fountain while guests in elegant attire mingled with champagne flutes, their conversations mixing with the gentle sounds of water and classical music. "This is quite an operation," David commented. "As we approach the main reception area, I can see why your parents are impressed with this connection." I spotted my parents near the bar, dressed in their finest formal wear and clearly enjoying their elevated social status as parents of the groom. My father wore a tuxedo that had been specially tailored for the occasion, while my mother had selected a sophisticated champagne-colored dress that complemented her newly styled hair. "Sarah." My mother's voice carried across the lawn as she approached us. "You look lovely. And David, how nice to see you again." After exchanging pleasantries, my mother's expression became slightly concerned. "Sarah, there has been a small issue with the seating arrangements. Nothing major, just some last-minute adjustments that Christina's wedding planner had to make." "What kind of adjustments?" I asked, though something in her tone made my stomach clench with apprehension. "Well, Robert invited several board members from Bradford Industries at the last minute. Very important business relationships for Jake's future, so they needed to rearrange some tables to accommodate the additional guests." David and I exchanged glances. "Where exactly are we seated?" he asked diplomatically. My mother's smile became more strained. "The wedding planner will show you. She is handling all the details. But I am sure you understand how important these business connections are for Jake's career development." We found the wedding planner near the entrance to the reception tent, a harried-looking woman with a clipboard and a headset who seemed to be managing multiple crises simultaneously. When I gave her my name, she scrolled through her list with increasing concern. "Sarah Mitchell +1, she murmured, continuing to scroll. "I am sorry. There seems to be some confusion about your table assignment." A cold dread settled in my stomach. "What kind of confusion?" "Let me check with Christina," she said, hurrying away before I could ask for clarification. 5 minutes later she returned with Christina herself, radiant in her designer wedding gown but wearing an expression that didn't quite match her bridal smile. "Sarah, I am so glad you could make it to our special day. Thank you for including us, Christina. The ceremony was beautiful." "About your seating," Christina continued, her voice taking on a carefully modulated tone. "We have had to make some last-minute accommodations for Daddy's business associates. Very important relationships that could really benefit Jake's future with Mitchell and Associates. I understand that." "Where would you like us to sit?" Christina's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Well, the main reception area is completely full now with Bradford Industries people and our closest family friends. But we have arranged alternative seating that should work perfectly." "Alternative seating," David repeated, his voice carrying a note of confusion. "If you will follow me," Christina said, leading us away from the elegant reception tent toward a much smaller structure near the catering facilities. The alternative seating turned out to be a card table covered with a white tablecloth, positioned in what was essentially the service area between the kitchen and the main reception. The sounds of clinking dishes and staff coordination created a backdrop that was decidedly different from the string quartet and elegant conversations happening 100 yards away. "You cannot be serious," David said, his venture capitalist composure finally cracking. "I understand it is not ideal," Christina replied, though her tone suggested she understood nothing of the sort. "But we simply ran out of space in the main reception area when Daddy's business partners needed to be accommodated." "Christina," I said carefully, trying to maintain my composure, "I am not just a wedding guest. My company has a $25 million contract with Bradford Industries. I think there might be some confusion about my professional relationship with your family." Something cold flashed in Christina's eyes. "Oh, I am well aware of your little software company," she said, her voice dropping its pretense of politeness. But tonight is about real relationships, family connections, and business partnerships that actually matter for Jake's future. The dismissal was so blatant, so deliberately insulting, that I felt something fundamental shift inside me. This wasn't an oversight or a space limitation. This was a deliberate attempt to put me in my place, to make it clear that despite my professional success, I was still just Jake's sister who needed to be grateful for whatever scraps of inclusion I received. My little software company, I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. Sarah, Christina said, her mask slipping further, I think you are overreacting to a simple seating arrangement. The staff area is perfectly adequate for supplemental guests. David stepped closer to me, his hand finding the small of my back in a gesture of support. I think we should go, he said quietly. This is completely inappropriate, but I wasn't ready to leave, not yet. Not until I had made something crystal clear to Christina Bradford and anyone else who thought they could treat me like an afterthought while benefiting from my professional success. Actually, David, I think I need to make a phone call first, I said, reaching for my phone with deliberate calm. I dialed the number for Margaret Chen, Bradford Industries CTO, knowing she would be available even on a Saturday evening, given the critical nature of the TechFlow implementation project. Margaret? It is Sarah Mitchell from TechFlow Solutions. I need to discuss a significant change to our contract with Bradford Industries. Christina's confident expression faltered as she realized I was making a business call at her wedding reception. Yes, I understand the implications, I continued, making sure my voice was loud enough for Christina to hear every word. Please prepare the contract termination paperwork. We will be discontinuing our software platform services to Bradford Industries effective immediately. What are you doing? Christina hissed. Her bridal composure completely shattered. I am making a business decision, I replied calmly. Ending the call. TechFlow Solutions doesn't partner with companies that demonstrate poor judgment and lack of basic professional courtesy. You cannot cancel a $25 million contract because of a seating arrangement. I am not canceling it because of the seating arrangement. Christina, I am canceling it because the seating arrangement revealed the fundamental character of your organization. If this is how Bradford Industries treats a CEO when you think she is just someone's sister, I have serious concerns about how you will honor our partnership when real challenges arise. The confrontation had attracted attention from other guests, including several Bradford Industries executives who were suddenly very interested in our conversation. Robert Bradford himself appeared, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm as he grasped the situation. Sarah, what is happening here? He asked, looking between his daughter and me. I was just explaining to Christina that TechFlow Solutions will be terminating our contract with Bradford Industries, I replied professionally. Effective immediately. Robert's face went pale. This is about the seating arrangements. Sarah, I had no idea, Mr. Bradford. This isn't about seating arrangements, this is about respect. Your daughter just referred to my company as a little software company and seated me in the service area while describing me as a supplemental guest. That kind of disrespect for a business partner is unacceptable. Jake appeared at that moment, probably summoned by someone who had witnessed the confrontation. His face was flushed, and his formal composure was cracking under the stress of his wedding day drama. Sarah, what the hell is going on? People are saying you are canceling some contract. I canceled our $25 million software contract with Bradford Industries, I said simply. Your wife made it very clear that my professional achievements don't matter to this family. Your wife made it very clear that I am not important enough to sit with actual guests at your wedding reception. So I decided that Bradford Industries isn't important enough to benefit from TechFlow's software platform. Jake's expression shifted through several emotions: confusion, anger, panic, and finally something that might have been understanding. Sarah, you cannot just, this will ruin everything. Robert was going to bring Mitchell and Associates into several major deals. Then maybe you should have considered that before allowing your wife to treat me like hired help, I replied. I built TechFlow from nothing, Jake. I created software that Bradford Industries desperately needs. But apparently, None of that matters, because I am just your sister who works with computers. The circle of interested observers was growing larger, including several Bradford Industries board members, who were suddenly very concerned about the software platform their company had been planning to rely on for the next 5 years. Robert Bradford stepped forward, his usual commanding presence somewhat diminished by the unfolding crisis. Sarah, I think there has been a serious misunderstanding. Christina doesn't speak for Bradford Industries' business decisions. Actually, Mr. Bradford, she does. She is your daughter and Jake's wife. If this is how your family treats business partners when they think no one important is watching, then I cannot trust Bradford Industries to honor our agreement when larger challenges arise. Christina finally found her voice again, though it was shrill with panic. Daddy, you cannot let her do this. The software implementation is already halfway complete. I am aware of that, Robert replied coldly, his attention focused entirely on damage control. Sarah, surely we can resolve this professionally. Christina spoke out of turn, and she will apologize. This isn't about apologies, Mr. Bradford. This is about fundamental respect. Your daughter's behavior tonight revealed something important about how Bradford Industries views business relationships. I choose to work with partners who value TechFlow's contributions, not those who see us as disposable when convenient. David, who had been quietly observing the confrontation, finally spoke. I think Sarah has made her position very clear. Perhaps we should allow the wedding celebration to continue. As we turned to leave, I heard Robert Bradford's voice, no longer smooth and diplomatic but sharp with barely controlled anger. Christina, my office. Monday morning. 9 of the clock sharp. Jake followed us toward the parking area, his wedding attire now wrinkled and his carefully styled hair disheveled from running his hands through it. Sarah, please, you have to reconsider this. The contract with Bradford Industries, it is not just about the money, it is about the connections, the opportunities for Dad's business. I understand that, Jake, but I have spent 34 years being treated like my achievements don't matter to this family. Tonight was supposed to be different. Instead, it was worse than I could have imagined. But Christina didn't know about your company. She knew enough to call it my little software company while seating me in the service area, I interrupted. And you, when was the last time you asked about TechFlow's success? When was the last time you bragged about your sister's business the way our parents brag about your marketing campaigns? Jake was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence, I heard my answer. I built something important. Jake, I created software that helps companies operate more efficiently, that saves them millions of dollars, that allows them to serve their customers better. But to this family, it is still just Sarah's computer hobby that might someday turn into real work. That is not true, isn't it? Then explain to me why Christina felt comfortable dismissing my professional achievements while simultaneously expecting me to be grateful for whatever table scraps of inclusion I received. David placed his hand on my arm, a gentle reminder that we could leave whenever I was ready. But I needed Jake to understand something before we walked away from not just this wedding, but potentially from this family dynamic forever. I spent decades trying to prove that my work was valuable, that my success was real, that I deserved the same respect you automatically receive for far lesser achievements. But tonight, I realized something important. I don't need this family's approval to validate my professional accomplishments. I have clients who respect my work, employees who depend on me, and partners who value what TechFlow contributes to their operations. Sarah, please, I am done, Jake. I am done minimizing my success to make other people comfortable. I am done accepting less recognition than I have earned. And I am done pretending that family loyalty means tolerating disrespect. 3 months after that wedding confrontation, the ripple effects are still unfolding in ways I never anticipated. The immediate aftermath was as dramatic as you might expect. Bradford Industries scrambled to find alternative software solutions, ultimately settling for a platform that cost them nearly twice as much and delivered significantly fewer features than TechFlow's integrated system. Robert Bradford called me repeatedly in the weeks following the wedding, offering everything from higher contract fees to formal apologies from Christina. But I had learned something important about my own boundaries that night, and I wasn't willing to compromise my self-respect for any amount of money. Jake's marriage faced immediate strain when Robert made it clear that Christina's behavior had cost Bradford Industries millions of dollars and damaged his relationship with a key technology partner. Their honeymoon was cut short for emergency family meetings about damage control and relationship repair. My parents' reaction was initially one of shock and disappointment. They couldn't understand how I could throw away such an important business opportunity over what they saw as a minor social slight. But as the full scope of Christina's disrespect became clear through family conversations, they began to recognize patterns in their own behavior that had contributed to the situation. The most significant change was within TechFlow Solutions itself. Without the Bradford contract consuming our resources, we were able to pursue international expansion opportunities that proved even more lucrative. 3 competing companies approached us within weeks of the termination, news spreading through industry networks, all eager to work with a software firm that clearly prioritized integrity over convenience. David's response to the wedding incident was particularly meaningful. Instead of being embarrassed by the confrontation or concerned about potential business implications, he was impressed by my willingness to defend TechFlow's value even when it cost us financially. Watching you stand up for your company's worth was one of the most attractive things I have ever witnessed, he told me a week after the wedding. Most people talk about having principles, but you actually demonstrated yours when it mattered most. Our relationship deepened significantly in the months that followed, built on a foundation of mutual respect for each other's professional achievements and personal boundaries. David understood both the technology industry and the importance of maintaining business relationships based on genuine partnership rather than family obligation. The broader lesson I learned extends far beyond that single evening at the Bradford estate. For 34 years, I had been operating under the assumption that family acceptance was more important than professional respect. But the wedding incident forced me to recognize that I had been seeking validation from people who were fundamentally unable or unwilling to provide it. My success with TechFlow Solutions was never actually dependent on my family's understanding or approval. The software platform I developed solved real problems for real companies, regardless of whether my parents could explain what I did for a living. The clients who benefited from our integrated systems valued our contributions whether or not Jake mentioned my achievements at family gatherings. The freedom I discovered after canceling the Bradford contract was profound and unexpected. Instead of feeling diminished by the loss of family approval, I felt liberated from the exhausting cycle of seeking recognition that was never going to come. I stopped measuring my professional achievements against my family's limited understanding of technology and business innovation. This shift in perspective affected every aspect of my life. At TechFlow, I became more confident in pricing our services appropriately and setting boundaries with clients who didn't fully appreciate our platform's value. In my personal relationships, I stopped accepting treatment that was beneath my worth, whether from family members or romantic partners. The mentorship program I started for women technology entrepreneurs has become one of my most fulfilling professional activities. Too many brilliant women in tech struggle with family dynamics similar to mine, where their achievements are minimized or dismissed by people who don't understand their industry. The hardest part, one of my mentees recently told me, is learning to value your own work when the people closest to you don't seem to think it matters. I shared with her the same lesson that took me 34 years to learn. Your professional worth is not determined by other people's ability to understand or appreciate your achievements. The companies that benefit from your innovations, the employees who depend on your leadership, and the industry peers who recognize your contributions are better judges of your value than family members who may never fully grasp what you do. The relationship with my family isn't perfect now, and it may never be. Jake and I have had several difficult but productive conversations about sibling dynamics and family favoritism. He is beginning to understand how his position as the automatically favored child gave him advantages he never fully recognized. My parents have made genuine efforts to learn about TechFlow's work and to acknowledge my professional achievements more consistently. But the patterns established over 3 decades don't disappear overnight, and I have learned to manage my expectations accordingly. The most important change is that I no longer need their validation to feel confident in my professional identity. I measure my success by the growth of TechFlow solutions, the satisfaction of our clients, the respect of my industry peers, and my own sense of professional fulfillment. Christina and I have had no direct contact since the wedding, though I understand through family sources that she eventually apologized to Robert for her behavior and its business consequences. Whether that apology was genuine or motivated by family pressure, I will never know, and it no longer matters to me. The lesson I want to share with anyone facing similar family dynamics is this: you cannot control how other people value your achievements, but you can control whether you accept their valuation as definitive. For 34 years, I allowed my family's limited understanding of technology to diminish my sense of my own professional worth. But my value as an entrepreneur and a business leader was never actually dependent on their recognition. I had built something meaningful and successful, created jobs for talented employees, and developed software that improved operations for companies across multiple industries. These accomplishments stood on their own merit, regardless of whether my family understood or celebrated them. If you are in a similar situation, feeling undervalued by family members who don't understand your career or minimize your achievements, I want you to know that your work matters. Your success is real, whether or not it is acknowledged by people who are supposed to support you unconditionally. And you have the right to demand respect for your professional accomplishments, even from family members who may never fully appreciate them. Setting boundaries with family is one of the most difficult things you will ever do, especially when it means potentially sacrificing relationships or opportunities that seem important. But sometimes walking away is the only way to preserve your self-respect and protect the value you have worked so hard to create. The relationship with my family continues to evolve, but it is now based on honesty rather than the false harmony we maintained for decades. That honesty, difficult as it was to achieve, has given me the freedom to be fully myself in all aspects of my life. What about you? Have you ever had to choose between family acceptance and professional respect? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes the boundaries we set with the people closest to us are the most important ones we will ever establish, and your experience might help someone else find the courage to demand the recognition they deserve.